Hello and welcome to Eskay Today. I'm Kirsty Podlaski and today we will be having not just one but two live debates here with our studio guests, Councillor Ian Roberts, Lorcan Dewan and Pat Ruan. But first, we'll also be covering all of today's top stories including former Tory MP Patrick Mercer's resignation, hundreds of children on drug and alcohol treatment services, Costa Coffee creates over 3,000 new job places, Danny Alva's banana Twitter trend, and Miss Stockport competition finished with double coronation. We'll also have not one but two live debates. In our top story, former Tory MP Patrick Mercer resigned last night over a cash for questions row. He quit ahead of tomorrow's report that will see him suspended for 6 months. Newark MP Mercer said he was ashamed at what had happened. He stepped down from the Tory party in June but continued as an independent MP following allegations. He tabled Commons questions and offered a Westminster security pass after signing a deal with journalists, as well as posing as a lobbying firm that paid him $4,000. UKIP leader Nigel Farage may stand in the resulting Newark by-election. Last night, Mr Farage said that winning a seat in Westminster would transform UKIP as a party. We can now cross over to our political correspondent John Furlong, who has more for us on this story. Is the seat in Newark a lot more open as Tory MP Patrick Mercer has resigned?
The seat in Newark is very open. The majority of voters were for Mercer last time, so there are many votes to be distributed elsewhere now he has resigned.
But does it look like Farage is likely to stand?
Farage has not yet decided if he will stand, though he has admitted to the win in the election. It could have huge implications for UKIP's part in Westminster, so he is currently tempted.
Does it seem likely that Farage will win the seat?
Farage would actually stand a good, being in a good position for winning. Mercer was a rather Eurosceptic conservative, therefore Farage's suspicions of Europe may be well received by the public since Mercer won the previous election.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to you later on in the show for another update.
Okay, thank you very much, Kirsty.
In national news, children as young as 4 are being referred to specialist drug and alcohol treatment services. Hundreds of youngsters have been flagged as being at risk of becoming addicts or have even started becoming alcohol and substance users themselves. Leading charities call for improved education in schools. Freedom of information requests sent to all councils in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland reveal children as young as 4 have been flagged up as being at risk to future drug problems. A referral can either mean the child is vulnerable to drug and alcohol misuse through exposure from a parent or relative, or could have started abusing them on their own. The most common reason for children to come into contact with drugs and alcohol is through their parents, according to the experts. The scheme says it is key not to label and alienate these youngsters away from family, but to instead educate them properly. They say preventative work is key to heading off the problem among young people. A third of the children referred for treatment had problems with alcohol, while more than half of under 13s on the list were being treated for cannabis misuse. We asked members of the public about their opinions on the matter.
You know, when you think of addiction as a illness, then you've got to try and see the other person's point of view as well.
You know, things happen, it's not right. It's definitely not right, and because the child's innocent.
I think the focus needs to be more on the mother in the first place, how and why she's become addicted, and do more work with adults and young adults to stop them becoming addicts.
Costa Coffee's owner will be hiring 3,000 more staff following a very successful year where profits rocketed by a fifth to around 110 million in 12 months as of February 2014. Even better news for Costa was rival Starbucks had a drop in UK sales. Since Costa is now outperforming Starbucks, Costa are expecting their number of shops from 1,700 to 2,200 in 4 years. Over this 4-year period, Costa also anticipate that worldwide sales will jump from 1.2 billion to 2 billion. This surge piles more and more pressure on Starbucks. Costa is a part of the Whitbread company, and Whitbread chairman Anthony Habgood said, "I am confident the brand strength of Costa will continue to fuel the company's growth." A massive anti-racism phenomenon has taken place within the world of social media in the last week. This is on the back of Dani Alves eating a banana that was thrown at him at a racist taunt. The culprit has received a lifetime ban from Villarreal games. Since the incident, followers such as Sergio Aguero, David Luiz and Yaya Toure have posted selfie pictures whilst eating a banana to show that everyone is equal. Experts say that this is another giant step in the quest to kick racism out of football, but it is clear that there is still so much work to be done. Jade Leverton was crowned Miss Stockport in Plaza Stockport last week. This glitzy event was a beauty pageant style contest where the winners get the chance to compete in the Miss England pageant held on the 19th of May. A big audience of 1,000 people were treated with an introduction from celebrity David Guest, then following with multiple dance and singing acts, including a performance from the 90s-80s group S Club. After rounds of leisure, fashion and evening wear, the panel of judges were left with the daunting task of selecting 10 semi-finalists from the 35 contestants. Stockport Mayor Chris Murphy crowned Jade Leverton as Miss Stockport and Rio Tooley as Miss Wilmslow. Both girls will go on to compete at the Miss England pageant in May. Event organiser Paul Taylor said the night was a spectacular showcase and landmark event for our town, and we now have a deserving ambassador for Stockport. The competition is very different from that of the 1980s. Today is all about empowering young ladies, building confidence and the charity beauty with a purpose. Now, we will have a short film on Reddish Vale Country Park and the ongoing dispute on the developments.
Campaigners take to the streets to save public land at Reddish Vale Country Park, 26 years after defeating the previous plans. Stockport Council are proposing the development to build 292 homes on the 1.3 hectares of land inside Reddish Vale Country Park. No formal application to develop or sell the land has been made by Stockport Council, but they have appointed a developer.
Countryside Properties was selected as the preferred developer to take this development forward. In terms of their status, what the development agreement with them does is it puts the onus on the developer to submit an application. So at this stage, they do not own anything around there.
As leader of the council, we received the proposals for the master plan, of which Reddish Vale is part of, for Brinnington, to regenerate Brinnington. We approved the principle, and after the consultations we approved the master plan. Once the planning application is in for the housing, the building will start. So I would expect to start to see the properties being built this year.
The Tame Valley Defence Group is a voluntary group looking to save the land. Members of the group claim the original plans were wrongly described and the proposed development site on Blackberry Lane was adjacent to the park rather than in it.
The current campaign is against the plan of Stockport Council to sell off 1.3 hectares of the country park to a private developer, and this is for the building of private houses. It's been done under the guise of the Brinnington Regeneration Plan. However, nobody was informed that Reddish Vale Country Park was at risk. The area of the country park that the council wants to sell off is known as Blackberry Slopes. This is a feeding ground for roe deer, badgers, foxes, bats, to name but a few. This wildlife will be decimated if the council go ahead, sell the land, and it is developed on.
The Local Government Act of 1972 states that authorities wishing to dispose of open space are legally bound to advertise their intentions in local newspapers for 2 consecutive weeks and then consider objections.
There is a specific set out legal process to go through under the Local Government Act, and that will involve advertising the fact that the council wishes to sell that land within local papers. There is a statutory period within that for people to make comment, and then ultimately it will have to go back to the council executive to receive approval for the sale of that land to progress.
In contrast to the Reddish Vale story, there are development plans in place for the land to be developed in Heaton Mersey recently, which have been through the correct means of informing residents and considering objections. The Tame Valley Defence Group claims that this is not the case for Reddish Vale, and the original plans have already been made without consulting the residents.
The council should have been open and honest from the start of the Brinnington Regeneration Plan in 2009 when it was conceived. It was mid-2013 before anybody in Stockport found out.
Campaigners will continue to fight for public consultation, which they say should have already been carried out prior to the plans being created.
They're almost saying that because we didn't go up to them personally saying we're going to do this, but we made a great deal of what we were doing. Certainly ward councillors in Brinnington were incredibly aware of this. They're part of the same group as the Reddish councillors. So, you know, we had no reason to suppose that information was not out there and was not known by people who were interested in it. They feel that they didn't know about it, but we feel that we put out as much information as we could.
Over 60 people have joined the campaigners on their latest rally against the proposals, while the online petitions gained around 5,000 signatures for the land to remain as it is. While no decision for the development has been formally made, it has been an issue in recent council meetings.
In our studio for the live debate, we have Councillor Ian Roberts and campaigner Pat Ruan. Hello and welcome to the studio.
Hello.
Hello.
So Ian, in your opinion, why is this regeneration so key to Stockport's economy?
Brinnington's a really important part of Stockport. It's one of our poorest areas, and it's an area with a very high percentage of social housing, and also it's an area which has a very old leisure centre, the Lapwing Centre, which is pretty much over half a century old. So what we want to do is to get more housing, particularly private rented housing that people can move into if they want to move out of social housing, and we want to have a new leisure centre. And the plans will achieve that.
So by getting rid of a social place for people to go to, it's kind of taken away another place where they can go to, because the leisure place you said is quite run down now. So don't you think that's quite a risky thing to do, especially if the plans don't go underway for a new leisure centre anytime soon?
What we're going to do is bring forward proposals for the leisure centre at the same time as the housing, and of course the old leisure centre will stay open until the new one is open. But what we're proposing is to build on less than 1% of Reddish Vale Country Park. It's 0.7%, so over 99% of the park will be completely untouched by this. We're doing it because essentially there is nowhere else to build within Brinnington, which is essentially what you have to do in these situations. You have to look at all the other possibilities. As many houses as we can we're building elsewhere in Brinnington, but to make it stack up financially so it actually happens, we do have to build on this small 0.7% part of the country park.
Okay, so what other extra benefits do you think will give to the area?
I think it's really important for local residents that if they are living in social housing and they actually want to move out and to rent or own their own house, that they're able to do that without moving away. Brinnington is a very confined area. It's got the country park on two sides and the motorway and railway on the others. So really people, if they do want to move away, have to move quite a distance. We want people to be able to stay in Brinnington with their friends and family, with the right facilities, if they want to move out of social housing, and this will achieve that.
Okay, thank you. So Pat, what is your opinion on the current plans and why do you think they should not go ahead?
The current plan to sell 1.3 hectares of country park land should not go ahead because it's against the policy. For a start, UOS 1.3, Protection of Local Open Space, states clearly that there is an undersupply of open space across the borough as a whole. Now, the policy that was started it held good in 2006, still holds good now post the 2011 changes. So any changes that are made to the wording that alter the fact that this any taking away of public open space has to be justified, and it has to be justified in two ways. It has to be justified by providing better or equal quality open space in the area used by the people who are using it now.
Okay, but from a campaigning standpoint, what impact will it have on the local residents who use the country park regularly?
Well, it will have a huge impact, especially on the people who live adjacent to the park in Brinnington, because that is their portion of Reddish Vale Country Park. And therefore, if you take away that, you're taking away something that they have too little of anyway. There is a shortage, Councillor Roberts will tell you, there's a shortage of open space in Brinnington.
Okay.
So if you take more open space away, particularly the most adjacent space, then obviously you're depriving the area even more.
Okay.
And open space is very, very vital to the well-being of people who live in the area.
Okay, understandable. So Ian, from a council standpoint, what impact will it have on the local residents who use the country park, Blackberry Lane area regularly?
We actually believe, firstly, I think it is a last resort. It's not something that we take lightly to take away space on the country park, but I think it's the right thing to do in this case. And actually, we believe it won't have a huge impact. It is a small area, as I say, less than 1% of the country park. It's an area which doesn't currently have footpaths across it in the main. And residents of Brinnington, of course, still do have access to the other 99% of the country park, which they can get to right on their doorsteps. So I think that the benefit of having the extra housing, the benefit of having the new leisure facilities, do outweigh the loss of that small amount of country park in this case, and that's why we're supporting the scheme.
Okay, so as you were saying, it sounds like it will benefit the locals, but we have a newspaper article that says that the locals are livid at the point of it. If you just want to take a look at the newspaper article, we've got friends livid over pipeline in the park. So we wouldn't have, protesters like this if your statement was true. What do you have to say about that?
Well, we've been speaking to residents in Brinnington, also to the local councillors and the local MP, all of whom do support the scheme. I'm quite happy that local residents in the main do support. We've asked them, do they want the new leisure centre? Very clearly the answer is yes. We asked them, do they want new houses? Very clearly the answer is yes. And of course we've made no secret about where that goes and how it is. And I think, clearly over the last year or so, particularly with the work of Pat's group, no one could have been in any doubt at all of exactly where those houses were going to be built. And yet we've had the debate in full council, and from all sides there's been support for it.
Okay.
There hasn't.
So, Pat, what have your campaigning group done to make others aware of this situation?
Well, the first time that the general public learned of this plan to sell off some of the country park was on the 10th of July 2013, because that was when I managed to get it published in the Stockport Express. And in the same article, Councillor Roberts says, "We know the park is extremely well used and valued, and we wouldn't compromise that. The Blackberry Lane site is already physically separated from the park." Why did you say that when you know it's not true?
Well, of course, if you actually go to the Blackberry Lane site, you'll see there's a plateau on it, and there are the slopes that are talking about. Now, we're not building on the whole of that area, but yes, if you go there, you can see quite clearly that that there is a physical separation with the slopes from the rest of the park. But I think the main thing is really, as I say, it's about the benefit to local residents, it's about the benefit in housing, it's about the benefit in leisure facilities. There is a balance. It's not an easy decision to make, but I'm firmly of the belief that it is the right decision to go ahead.
Do you think that a slope in the land, then, is a physical separation?
I think most people who tried walking up that slope would say it was a physical separation, yes.
No, it's not. Physical separation is a fence or a row of trees or something like that. There's no physical separation. The physical separation is the boundary line from Blackberry Lane onto the country park, and that is where it starts, on Blackberry Lane. The entrance is there quite clearly, and the council have consistently refused to put a sign up advertising that is Reddish Vale Country Park.
That is a great point you've made there, Pat. But just to say, other than campaigning for the Vale, what else do your group do to preserve the Vale?
Well, we've been trying for over 10 years to get the nesting islands repaired. We have been promised for over 10 years that this would be achieved. Not quite now, because it might be nesting time. Not quite now, because it's coming towards the winter, and this has gone on for 10 years. And the upshot is that we are now doing it ourselves, and we've made a damn good job of it.
Okay. Right, well, thank you very much for both of your points here, guys. But in your opinion, what would the history put off our people buying new houses when they're built?
Sorry, stay again.
Sorry. So, in your opinion, would the area's history be put off people buying one of the new houses if it was to be built and if you were to win the debate?
I don't think so, actually. I mean, we've actually recently opened some new houses on Essex Road in Bridlington, and they're being fantastically popular already. Just in the first few weeks, we've got some sales completed and several more in the pipeline. I think Bridlington is an area which does need our support, and I think certainly the evidence shows with the Essex Road houses that we can that the new houses would be sold and would be lived in and will be put to good use.
Okay, well, two very valid points there and an absolutely fantastic debate. So, we'll give you a few minutes to prepare for the next and second part of the show, but please join us after an advert break for another inspiring debate about the current state of public roads and some newspaper reviews.
One conditioner gives you thicker, fluffier softness than any other. It's Lenore.
Thank you.
Now available in a money-saving refill.
Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. Golden flakes of corn encrusted with honey, nuts and brown sugar. Altogether, quite irresistible. Kellogg's Crunchy Nut Cornflakes. The trouble is they taste too good.
Early bird. How you doing, turkeys?
Fashion.
Music. Film.
Sports. Early birds.
On Channel 4 every Sunday morning at 9.
Cold weather is hard on your hands, but new Fairy isn't. It washes even more dishes, and it's still as gentle as ever. Stay in good hands this winter.
There is only one man who can help you make a real Mexican chili. He is the hombre from Home Pride.
Friday. Saw an older woman for lunch. Sharon. She's 15 and a quarter. I told her I'd fallen in love with Finder's crispy pancakes. I hoped she'd enjoy the delicious filling of tender diced chicken and mushrooms, cooked in a creamy sauce and wrapped in golden crumb pancakes. Heaven. Next time we meet, I'm going to propose. Finder's minced beef crispy pancakes. Sharon asked if I had an older brother.
Today's Win-A-Lot whole grain is made with a lot of wheat and a lot of maize, which is a lot of goodness. Win-A-Lot whole grain. Dogs like it a lot.
When pain strikes, new Innovan will take it away quickly. New Innovan is strong, effective, because it contains only ibuprofen. New Innovan is fast-acting, but gentle, too. New Innovan, today's answer to pain.
My floor!
That's my floor.
Look at my floor.
Ow! Dog's got muddy floor.
Come on, I'll do it in no time.
Not with that. You need flash.
Okay, race you.
No contest. Watch, Flash will shift this greasy mess.
That's not fair.
If you want to finish faster, you can use Flash next time.
What next time?
Flash cleans greasy grime in half the time.
Now, I'm supposed to have a bit of a way with words, apparently, so they say, but I've been trying to describe the richness of Maxwell House, and it's a bit tricky. I mean, I could say that marvellous Max aroma gets your taste buds revelling in an orgy of richness, or I could say Max is a minor miracle of richness in a mug, or I could say Max is not just rich, it's positively well off.
Why use 50 words to describe Maxwell House when two say it all? Max richness.
New Radion Micro. A concentrated powder with unbeatable performance. With around half the powder, Radion Micro gets your clothes really clean because it removes tough stains and odours, even the microscopic traces of stale odour that other concentrated powders miss. New Radion Micro, unbeatable at removing dirt and odours.
Because we spend the time to create exotic Indian dishes like chicken tikka, you'll have time to get out the iron. Menu Master, a taste of freedom.
Got up, hit the headlines. Oh, went shopping for some a la carte. Fell in love. She didn't want to know. My favourite park. Oh no, my favourite tree. Went for a run. Got mugged. You Frisky's buffet a la carte. Smells all right. Very meaty. Tastes terrific. Not such a bad day after all.
Frisky's buffet a la carte. Make your dogs day.
Hello and welcome back to Eskay Today Series 2. I'm Kirsty Podlasky, and coming up on the second part of the show, a live in-studio debate and newspaper reviews. Now, in preparation for our second debate, here is a short film on the current state of public roads.
The cost of running a car or motorbike is by no means cheap. There is fuel duty that takes 59.95p of every pound that is spent on fuel, with 20% VAT on top of this. There is also vehicle excise duty, known as VED, what many people seem to wrongly refer to as road tax. Stockport Council have decided £100 million is going to be spent on the poor condition of the roads in Stockport. But where does this money come from? Most people do believe that it comes from road tax, as you have seen, but not one of it actually goes to the maintenance or building of the roads. So although the roads are being repaired in Stockport, all the money is actually coming from the council. The 100 million that has been accumulated is all from general taxation. So all the money from VED actually doesn't go for anything to repair the roads, it is all goes into the exchequer. This is a certain sense of warped morality, as it would make more sense, and probably the public happier, if it was actually spent on the roads, as they then would know that as they were paying for. So there is a call for more transparency on what it actually pays for.
Well, I think the state of the roads at the moment in the UK are pretty in a bad state of affair, really. They're, potholes everywhere locally. I think the motorways seem to be looked after. I don't know. I don't travel on the motorways a great deal, but yeah, the general state seems to be quite appalling. 14 billion per year is taken from UK taxpayers for roads, and the fact that only 14 billion is used on the roads. I would be interested to know where the other rent. I'd be very keen to know if they're spent on the railways and buses and public transport, because that's really where it should be used. But there should be much more, as they always say, the word transparency. But we just need to know. I mean, I was looking at my local council tax booklet that I get yearly for how much is spent on schools, recycling, waste, etc., and on roads, and there was nothing on the roads. And
The government has actually presented to Parliament a paper promising changes to Britain's roads as well as the Highways Agency. They talk of trebling the expenditure on roads. The plans involve a lot of investment. By 2020 to 21, £6 billion is proposed to being spent to help local authorities repair the roads. Why then is this money going to the Exchequer?
Well, it should pay for damage to the roads, shouldn't it? Yeah, we pay enough tax in this country. Pay tax on everything, don't we? Pay tax on your savings, you pay tax on your fuel, you pay tax on your food. So, if you're paying tax on something, it should be for what it's meant for.
Maintenance of the public highways. I'd be surprised and disappointed.
Well, I find it quite shocking, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I do an awful lot of miles, and obviously we pay an awful lot of road tax, etc. And considering the state of the roads, and obviously it's a big issue for me. I understand that, you know, there are tight budgets, and I assume that the money is spent in other areas where they feel, for instance, the NHS is perhaps one place where it may be substituted or put into rather than the roads.
As you have seen, there are other things that the money needs to be spent on, but however, if the roads are in such a dire need of repair, where does the £5 to £6 billion of VED go every year when it could help what the government has said is a priority?
We have Councillor Ian Roberts and Lorcan Dewan in our studio today. Hello.
Hello.
So I'm going to come to you first, Lorcan. What do you think about the current state of the roads in the UK?
The current state of the road is they're pretty appalling. I mean, I drive a lot myself. I'm a delivery driver, and I'm constantly having to slow down and make sure my tyres are all right before every drive, because the amount of potholes that are on the roads or just damaged roads, they're pretty bad. So yeah.
Have you had any particular experiences where, you know, you've kind of gone over a pothole and you've had to, you know, check your tyre and double check it's okay?
I've had one where I've had a damaged tyre, so I had to get it changed eventually. But I'm generally quite careful with that. So I've never had to have any damage with the car, but the tyres I check them every time, because sometimes they might be a bit low on air pressure and stuff. So.
Okay. So, now to you, Ian, same question. What do you think about the current state of the roads in the UK?
Well, certainly the state of the roads is fairly poor. It's right across the country, particularly residential roads, but the main roads to some extent as well. You know, yes, we've got roads around, just like everyone else, that hasn't been repaired in 30, 40 years and are in desperate need of repair, which is, of course, why we're doing what we are in Stockport to try and resolve that.
Are you a driver yourself?
I am, yes.
And have you had any particular experiences where you've had troubles with your tyres because of the state of the roads?
I've been fairly lucky. I'm actually a cyclist as well, so I have more problems cycling, actually, dodging potholes there. So yes, I mean, it is a problem, which is why we're trying to do something about it.
Yeah, definitely. So what are your feelings about the current amount of expenditure on the roads?
I think it's a really difficult issue. I mean, clearly we do need to find ways to spend more on the roads, but at the same time, the reality is if you spend more on one thing, as was mentioned in your film, you have to spend less on something else. So, you know, we do need to have a serious discussion as well, do we want to spend less on the NHS or less on welfare or less on pensions and these sorts of things? So it does need to be looked at. I think we do need to find ways to spend more on the roads, but I don't think it's an easy solution.
Yeah, understandable. So, Lorcan, how do you feel about most money accumulated by road-based tax going to the Exchequer?
I think it's pretty appalling. I mean, it's paid. The drivers and road users have to pay it. It surely should go to repairing roads and helping out, like filling potholes and stuff like that. It's a bit ridiculous that it goes to the Exchequer when the roads are in such bad condition.
Do you think this is the general feeling of residents and car drivers, you know, that think they're paying the tax and it's not going exactly where they want it to go? Do you think this is the general feel?
I think the general feel, a lot of people are naive, they're not aware of this. But people I'm aware who are also drivers, they're not very happy that it goes to the Exchequer. They want the vehicle excise duty to go to repairing roads.
Is there anything you think we can do to raise awareness of this?
I think adverts, for example, or newspaper articles can help raise awareness for this, because there's very few people I'm aware of who know that this tax goes to the Exchequer.
So given the state of the roads, do you think more can be done?
I believe so, yeah. I think a lot more can be done, because some of the roads are diabolical. Some of the roads I'll even not drive down because I'm afraid my tyres might be damaged.
Yeah, I'm the same. So Ian, why does the money from the vehicle excise duty go to the Exchequer?
I think it's just a general principle in the UK in taxation that's just how tax works for central government. That pretty much everything, whether it's national insurance or income tax or vehicle excise duty or VAT, all goes into the pot in the Exchequer and gets dished out. You could do it differently. You could spend it on specific things, but then again we come to the problem: what's going to miss out? If you're going to say let's spend vehicle excise duty on the roads, that's fine. You can do that. But currently it's being spent on the NHS, on pensions. So I think if you're going to look at our argument seriously, you do need to say, and this is what we would cut with the money that we're now not going to spend on something else.
So is there anything specific you can think of that it is being spent on?
Well, essentially it goes into all government spending. I mean, by far the biggest parts of government spending, by an absolute mile, are the NHS, welfare spending, schools and pensions. Those four take far more than everything else put together. Really, if you want to make serious savings, this is the issue the government's got, of course, at the moment with austerity. You've got to look at saying, well, if you're not going to cut at least one of those, you're pretty much stuffed. And I think it's those sorts of areas you would have to say, if you want to spend more money on roads, you're going to have to say, well, how are we going to save money on one of those other areas?
Well, what is your opinion on this? I mean, do you think it's that fair? Do you think it would be better spent on the roads?
Well, what we're doing in Stockport is we've looked at how much we think we would spend on patching the roads over the next 20 or 30 years if we carried on doing it the current way. And we've actually figured out that if we borrow £100 million and we use that £100 million to repair the roads properly and to relay roads and pavements right across Stockport, and then we pay back that money with interest, as you have to do over the next 20 or 30 years, that actually works out as about the same as patching, and we think that's a better approach. So it might well be that other councils could start doing that as well, and that might be a way forward.
Okay, so just last for both of you, do you both think there should be more transparency on what vehicle excise duty pays for?
I think yeah, we need to be aware of what it pays for, because a lot of people are naive and they're not aware of it.
Yes, well, I don't think it's a secret, but I think certainly it wouldn't hurt at all for vehicle excise duty and other taxes if people understand it all goes into the pot.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you both very much. Thank you.
No problem.
So now we can cross back over to John Furlong, who has an update for us on our earlier story about Patrick Mercer's resignation. What's the latest, John?
Hi, Kirsty. Farage has decided that he will not stand in the upcoming election. He said that he would like to not be viewed as an opportunist. He also added that it was more important to focus on the European elections that were coming up soon.
Thanks, John. Now we'll check today's headlines. So today, a 90-year-old woman lies in a care home bed begging for help. She cries out 321 times in just 1 hour, but her carers simply ignore her. Now, if we split to the full story here, we can say she is a great-grandmother with her beloved grandkid Yvonne. And just imagine your own grandmother being stuck inside somewhere without anyone being able to help her. Next page, we have the Stockport Express. Here again, you can see Jade Levitin with her Miss Stockport crown, and an air raid shelter blitz and ablaze, which is of course under Heaton at Norwich. Fire chiefs are saying to people, do not go under there, as fires are being ignited deliberately and it is just not safe for anyone to be going under there, so please be aware. And last but not least, we here have just some fears for Maguire, who was a beloved teacher who was once stabbed and killed, and a 50-year-old pupil is still being questioned over the stabbing. And that is all today for the headlines. Okay, so Women thrown on scrap heap after years of living with a man. So everyone is used to seeing women kind of living off men, men paying for the women and paying their way. And this story here is just basically talking about how women are getting thrown once aside once the men, you know, aren't happy with being for them anymore. And that is in the Metro News today. That is where you can find it. We'll just flick again over to Stockport Express here. And bike shop date for Great Britain Stars. We'll turn to page 19 and have a little look at what's going on in there. Oh, actually, we've just come onto this page. So here's Jade again, from, again, the Stockport Plaza. We'll move on from there, as we've already spoken about that. And celebrating success from our schools. Greater Manchester has had fantastic achievements, and hopefully we will carry on that way. So thank you for being with us today. Please join us next year in a new series of Eskay Today for more serious interests in live debates. I've been your host, Kirsty Podlasky. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.